Hello, my name is Trevor Babcock, and today we are looking at the fight/attack mechanic within two turn-based combat games. So real quick, we're looking at the player select and deselect the action of fighting. They are selecting with the key Z, and they are deselecting with either the keys Shift or X. We also saw the player go left and right between fight and act, and this is with the left and right directional keys. Now with Final Fantasy VII, the inputs are very similar, however the select key is now X, and the deselect key, or go back, is now C. We are also able to see, instead of using the left and right directional arrows, the player actually uses the up and down directional arrows to select opponents as well as navigate the menu. Looking at Deltarune, we see that damage is ranged. It's based on a min and max value, and that range is based on where the player actually hits the mark before dealing damage. So before the player hits the crit mark, from right to left is low to high. On that selection indicator, that's a crit. Anything past that is high damage, but if you wait too long after that high period, it ends up as a miss. Now the entire process from target selection to combat completion, or one attack cycle, is 3 seconds total. Now with Final Fantasy VII, damage is based on some stats by the character, and that the damage goes from a max to min range, but it's not determined by the player, it's determined by a formula. Now with timing, it goes 8 seconds to go from empty to full stamina bar to where the player can now attack and make an action. And it's a 3-second total process from selecting an enemy to attack to your player going back to its initial starting location. Now looking at feedback, we see the cascading effect that the player gets before selecting an action. There's a little noise every time we select an action, select what player to attack, and we get a little bit of feedback on the bar itself moving across the screen, and then when the player presses Z. We also see, actually during this process of the player selecting when to attack, the main character winds back for an attack, and so we're going to see that in a few seconds. They wind back for an attack, they attack, there's some particles, the damage numbers appear, and then the enemy character reacts, as well as TP percentage gets gained. Swapping back to Final Fantasy VII, whenever we're looking at a character to select, the name in the left is flashing. We see the time bar on the right growing. We see damage particles and effects, the player dashing, there's an animation. We see actually the finger selecting which action, which enemy to select. We get a death animation, and we also get noises every time we make a selection or we go back in selection, as well as the noises that appear during combat. Now with the design of Deltarune, the player gets to decide all the actions their team's going to take, and then after that action is performed by the team, the enemies get to make their actions, and it's a give and take back and forth. We see that the player can select targets so they can strategize. The player is able to miss, but this missing is a result of a skill test, and it makes it very engaging and skill-based so the player can actually get better. We don't see in this video, but attacking and killing an enemy during the game can actually change the narrative of the game and what ending you get. Now with Final Fantasy VII's design, it goes off of a gauge tracked by each character, and it's all very real time, which makes it engaging in its own way, but it's not skill based, it's reaction based. However, you can still select targets, so there's some strategy, but you can also miss. It's a random chance game cause thing, which makes it feel a little worse.